Today on Open Loops, somebody that I've wanted to have on for quite a while. Why? Because this would be the first official Swami I have on this show. Yes, somebody that is an expert in all things spiritual, yoga, but in particularly very interested in some of his recent work on advanced astral physics. How do those words all fit together? We're going to get into it all. I'm curious about his story. I'm curious about who this person is, this spiritual being, and what the story is that brought him to these understandings today. So, Swami Mounamurti Saraswati, thank you so much for coming on Open Loops. Excited to have you.
Thanks very much, Greg. Namaste. Yeah,
Namaste.
it's been a while since I first saw you a few years ago, and
Yes.
yeah, I'm honored to be on your show. And
Likewise.
yeah, we'll talk about anything that you like, really.
It's so interesting because I feel like when I pressed you, if I were to go back into those conversations, if I remember, I feel like there was a point of time where you were like, I don't have anything to say right now, but I will. Which is interesting. What has been going on for you in the past years? Like what has changed on your journey? Where are you at today?
Uh, yeah, I remember a few years ago you just interviewed Dr. Richard Allen Miller, actually, and
Hmm.
that was when I sort of met you online, and yeah, I've been following. Sorry, Dr. Richard Miller and Max Rampell, who you interviewed recently. And just as a bit of a sideline, where I've sort of evolved, moving forwards, and those guys have been interesting me what they've been into the last few years. And yeah, suppose I've taken a bit of a distraction tour, you might say, and just been really interested in what they're been into, their research
Yeah.
from a not on a scientific level, because I'm no scientist or anything like that, but from I suppose a metaphysical side of things, a spiritual side of things. Yeah, because they're not just scientists, those guys. They're very different sort of individuals who are
Yeah.
very highly spiritual as well in their own right.
No, no, absolutely. I find it so interesting, and I look at when I see somebody, people with that background that are, I really did not think when I started doing this show, and certainly um coming out of my ignorance as a teenager, being like, atheism, that's it. There's no God. How can there possibly be God? I really thought it was a divide. I thought there were the scientists, and I thought there were the spiritual people, often the religious people. And to see so many people that have gone the path of Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, whatever it is, doesn't even matter. Stanford, all these people that are PhDs, written papers, and then all of a sudden something happens. It opens them up to another realm, and they're open, or just they go, this is the limits of what this knowledge can take me, but there's something else going on. It does make me more of a believer, certainly, than I used to be. But let's start with you. What is your background? Did you grow up in an ashram? Were you
Oh,
born to?
absolutely.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely not. Um, yeah, I just had like a normal background, and when I was about 11, I suppose I had an out of body experience when I was 11, 1968 it was. So I'm pretty old, 67 now. So back in those days, I had some sort of experience where I was in my bedroom. My brothers came into the room while I was asleep, and I floated out of my body. I was up on the ceiling looking down at my body, and I could hear them talking, but I was out of my body. So that was like a genuine experience that I learned later on when I got into yoga. And I started practicing yoga probably when I was about 24 and really intensely. I think it was 1981. One of my friends came back from India and he had a book, big yoga book, and I got right into reading about it and the philosophy and the practices, and I just started devouring yoga. Got more and more books and got spent a lot of time into it. And some of my friends were like professional surfers, and they were getting into yoga as well. So I was a surfer, young surfer, and I was just into it from the flexibility point of view. But I started embracing the whole philosophy behind it and got deeper and deeper into it, and just um, then all of a sudden, like I started going to yoga classes, one a week, and then the next year it was two a week, and then the next year it was three a week. And then all of a sudden I met a Swami. Uh, and this was 1984, so it was like 40 years ago this year.
Wow.
So I met a Swami, and then that was 84, and then I'm doing like 5 hours of yoga a day, really deeply into it. Asana, pranayama, and mudras and bandhas and kriya yoga and chakra practices and all this stuff. So a couple of years later, 1986, um, I had a materialization of my guru, who I hadn't even physically met, who's in India, in my bedroom. So it was like a full size hologram. Like I was half awake. I woke up, looked at the foot of the bed in the darkness. My wife's beside me, and here's my guru standing there from the waist up, like at the foot of the bed. And he just froze my mind. My mind was totally frozen. I couldn't move my face left or right, up or down. My eyes couldn't even move, up or down, left or right. And I was just frozen, and it was just mind to mind telepathy. So, and then he started talking to me, mind to mind, and he was talking to me. And as if that wasn't enough, like half an hour later, I got out of bed and went to the lounge room, started doing my yoga practices, my meditation and breathing practices, and getting into the breathing pattern that I was into, Ujjayi pranayama, up and down the spinal cord, through the chakras. And then it's like my breath stopped, and I had a Kundalini awakening, my first Kundalini awakening in 1986, and I really entered an astral realm through that awakening in Muladhara chakra, the base chakra, and the energy started going up through the spinal cord, and I was entering as it moved up. I started entering different dimensions, and that was the start of it. That was my first Kundalini experience I mean, it was really deep and it'd take a lot of time to explain all that, but that was the first Kundalini experience, 1986. And that year I had about probably five really big experiences that year. So
Holy moly.
I started really searching and talking to swamis and stuff like that. And I found that the only way to find out more is really to go to the source, to go to see Swami Satchinanda in India. So 2 years later, in April '88, I went to India to meet Swami Satchinanda, who was a fully self-realized yogi and enlightened being, and I met Swamiji, and yeah, and that was the start of my, I suppose, real spiritual connection with that lineage. And
I was going to say, was that the one at the end of your bed? Was that the guy that
yes,
materialized?
yes, absolutely. And
Did
the
you ever
amazing,
bring up that incident with him? Did you go, "Hey, this happened once," and he was like, "Yeah, man, I've been waiting for you." I mean, what
yes, yes,
really? What was
yes,
that
I
like?
did.
I
I
need to know
did
about
bring it
this.
up with him, and actually, he, I met him in a group satsang with there's a group of a dozen Indians, and he was up on the sixth floor of the building. He was living in total almost seclusion, and at the time, and he said I started talking to him about psychic experiences, and he said, "Come and see me later in private." So I went into his private room later on that day, and he told me to sit right in front of him. I was petrified, because he's a really huge guru, and he made me sit really close to him, like a meter in front of him, and close my eyes, and he asked me to try to meditate, and I nervously tried to meditate, and he went into like a really deep samadhi state or a trance or something, and about 15 minutes later, I think he he opened my eye. He opened his eyes about 5 minutes after I did, and he started telling me about what he'd seen for me, and which was just really, really interesting. And I didn't really expect that was my first psychic reading, from a guru, and
Yes.
I'm sure that was not a part of his normal thing that he did, but yeah, I was very appreciative because I had a lot going on for me at that time, and yeah, it's like a psychic upheaval and spiritual upheaval, sort of over the last couple of years up until that point. And that was like the start of that journey. And then I came back to Australia. I was there for a month, and I went to see Swamiji every day. I was there, and a couple of times, we had lots and lots of private meetings, and that really formed a really close connection, which I really already had, but uh, got to know more about Swamiji on a deeper level than through the books and satsangs and things like that. This is a really sort of deeper level. And yeah, I went back to Australia and continued, and a lot of things happened. Like everything sort of sped up from that moment, you might say. It's like a speeding up or a quickening of the evolution, you
Well,
might
that's what
say.
I was going to say. I mean, you had this experience at 11, and then you get into yoga. And I was wondering on your journey, like, just to take it back for a second so I can understand kind of the way this works in terms of timeline, were you having other experiences, or was it really you were 11, you did yoga all these years, you did meditation, and then the materialization happened, and then it's sort of like an exponential curve, that quickening you described? I mean, because yeah, I guess I'm wondering is it really that long sometimes for people to have? They have one experience, they start getting into some practice, and it can be years before
Oh,
they start to
absolutely.
see returns.
It can be years. It can go back into its dormancy, like it's just a little wake up call. Aha, there's something more. And then it goes back into its dormancy. Like after you have a chakra awakening, it can go dormant again, right? And then later on, it can wake up during different times. Chakras and Kundalini is a lot deeper than chakras, but yes, it can go dormant and wake up at any time.
Were you thinking about, let me just ask this, were you secretly thinking in the back of your mind as you were surfing and doing yoga, and there's something more here, I know something's going to happen? Or were you just good with like the practice as it was? Where were you at in terms of your spiritual journey at that point? All I'm talking like through the 60s, 70s to early 80s. Like what were you, was there anything spiritual you were chasing or looking for?
No, I really wasn't. I was just having a good time, just like all young guys. And
Yes.
yeah, I was just having a really good time. And, I was into the nature and all that sort of thing, surfing. And I wasn't on any spiritual path. But after I started practicing yoga, I found myself starting to go to churches and things like that. And I suppose, yeah, I did find myself starting to go to churches, Pentecostal churches, where they speak in tongues and
Yeah.
all sorts of things, like you could really feel the Holy Spirit coming in and all sorts of stuff. Things were happening inside of me. But, I found that a lot of it was, they wanted to try and control me more, give up,
Hmm.
go follow our way is the only way. I found that a lot, and but I really enjoyed my little journey through the different spiritual organizations, the churches, finding the different energies that I could feel because I was
Hmm.
feeling the energies, what ones felt alive and what ones felt dead, with nothing, just dry intellectualism, and the others you could really feel the Holy Spirit.
That's so interesting. I'm also just curious about why, I mean, these are traditionally Eastern practices, yoga, meditation, but there is, I mean, you could have gone the hermetic path too, and maybe you have, but I'm curious, like, was there any kind of Western magical influence along this journey, or are you really more on this side of things?
I know I met a lot of Western masters who were actually a generation older than me, who were actually swamis as well. And
Mm,
yeah, they've had their journeys, like Dr. John Mumford, for instance. He's a famous yogi, Swami Mounamurti Saraswati. He just died a couple of years ago or a year ago, a bit over a year ago. He was a big influence in my life as well. And when all these awakenings start happening, you start becoming a high grade searcher, you might say. You start searching a bit, spiritual seeker. You start searching harder and further, and to find the answers to what you're looking for. And yeah, I definitely did that. I searched through, and I met a lot of gurus, and yeah, that's been my path. You might say the last 40 years.
yeah. I want to go back to okay. So this is very interesting. So yeah, I know we're jumping around, but this is nature of the show. And also just in general, it seems like there are a lot of different influences that have gone into your journey for sure on different sides. What is so take me back. We're now in 1986. You go
Yeah.
back to Australia and you said things really started to pick up.
Oh, that was in '88. Yeah, I went
Oh,
back.
88. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, as soon as I got back to Australia, my wife wanted to divorce me. So, like as all my personal life just fell in a heap. And then my guru, who I just met in India, Swami Satchinanda, he left gurudom. Like he was a five-star guru, one of the biggest gurus in the world, and he just walked out of the ashram and gave the keys to the ashram, which was a global organization. And all the ashrams, he just gave it to his successor, Swami Naranjan, who's also my guru now. But and he just left and totally renounced gurudom and just went on the deeper search himself. And everyone thought, wow, what else does he have to achieve? He's already there.
Yeah, that's what I'm
He's already
wondering.
an enlightened being. He's got millions of disciples and ashrams all over the world. But yeah, he went and deepened his own connection for the next 20 years.
What happened? I mean, did he come back eventually? Where'd this guy go?
No, no. He went to a place called Rikia in what used to be Bihar State, where Bihar School of Yoga is where I went originally. And he walked all around India. And a year later, he followed his inner calling and he went to a place which was revealed to him called Rikia, which is in Jharkhand, which is the northern part of Bihar. It's actually a state now called Jharkhand. And he started doing his intense yoga practices there that he was directed to do. And he did his intense practices living in seclusion for the next 20 years of his life. So you might say I was one of the last Westerners to meet him when he was actually doing his guru role at heading up the Bihar School of Yoga, before he renounced the whole thing and lived in seclusion for the last 20 years of his life.
It's so interesting.
And
It makes
he
me,
passed away. He passed away in 2009, December.
huh. I mean, when somebody like that just renounces, does that make I mean, I was going to ask, is everybody running around going, what's he renouncing? Does this mean we should stick with this? I mean, are we
Oh,
doing
well,
something?
you see the he's one of the only ones that I've ever heard of that he's totally got built up massive institutions worldwide, and five-star guru, you might say, and then renounced the whole lot and gone wandering penniless like a sadhu. When you got whatever resources that you need at your beck and call, and then all of a sudden he's renounced that at 65.
Hmm.
You know,
So,
like
yeah, was that
he became.
controversial?
Oh yeah, like most of the gurus, they cling to everything that they've got. They don't want to give it up. They're
Yeah.
on top of the, they're on top of the tree. They can't renounce that. They become famous and all that, and riches and all the stuff, all the trappings. I call it the trappings that go with that. But Swamiji really led the way. He renounced the whole lot and went back to his original search, which led him to search for his guru when he was 19. And yeah, that's so he more or less showed the way uh, for people, swamis that want to reach higher. They've got to renounce what the trappings of becoming a guru. Like, it's one thing being a teacher, and another thing becoming a big guru, and then a global guru, and then getting caught with all the trappings that bind you, the karma that you're creating
Hmm.
by creating an institution, you might say.
Yeah. Have you been a guru for anybody?
Maybe a couple.
You don't seem like someone that has the trappings, though. I don't know you too well, maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
well, look, I'll never get trapped by anything like that. I've seen enough in my life. I've met a lot of gurus, and yeah, I really don't want to be a part of that whole scene.
yeah. You ever meet
And
Osho? What was up with that guy?
no, I didn't. But yeah, he was big back in the day, like back in the 80s. He was really big, but he's a great guru. He was.
A great definition of what I think of when I think of spiritual guru. With the
Yeah, like
trappings.
yeah, exactly. Like Swami Satchidananda and Osho, they were like the biggest back in the 80s. Back in those days, like the early to mid 80s. Yeah, like Osho used to be on 60 Minutes, and like with all
He
of his
loved the
Rolls Royces and all that
cars.
stuff in America.
Yes. Yeah, he liked the jewelry. He liked the cars. He seemed to like the ladies. It was a very what I imagine, I mean, just kind of, it was funny that it was, and then, the whole thing was that, well, you can be spiritual and like this material stuff too.
Yeah,
Um,
well, he was talking about a lot of things that the traditional gurus weren't allowed to talk about in India. So he went out of India.
yeah. Is
But
there, is there, so, okay, this is all very intriguing stuff. So I'm very fascinated by the renouncing controversy. And just I would also think, if you're trained in meditation and the idea of, the universal state of the one truth being that there are no permanent truths, that idea that if someone were to renounce, a lot of the people that were followers would go, yes, that's exactly as it should be. But it sounds like it probably divided people. I'm sure there were some people that supported the journey. And I'm sure there were some people that went, this guy's renouncing what the wait. But for you, what did it do for you? Did it make you call into question anything you had learned from this guru? Were you, I mean, what did you take after that?
Well, well, in 1995, I actually did become initiated as a Swami, a Purna Sannyasa, or a full sannyasa guru of Swami Satyananda's successor, Swami Naranjananda Saraswati. When he was in Australia, I took initiation or diksha from him as a Swami, and there was about 11 others that became Swamis on that day who'd traveled from all over the world to meet Swami Naranjan because he was the head of the lineage and the Bihar School of Yoga after Swami Satyananda left in 88. So he became the president in 83 and then became the guru. So then he came out and started touring around the whole world. And anyway, after 95, in 95, I actually went to India and did a course there, which was the first course at the Bihar Yoga Bharati, which was the world's first yoga university. So I did the inaugural course there in 1995, which is nearly a long time ago,
Yeah.
30 years next year. And during that course, which was really great course, and it was the first time I really sort of applied myself or went on a big. It was like a retreat, but it wasn't a retreat. It was in-depth yoga practices plus all the theoretical as well, the learning. It was an undergraduate certificate course. But while I was at this course, like I was a Swami, so I was intending to stay there as a Swami in India. But while I was there, I had my ex-wife, my girlfriend, and another Swami. Everyone's writing letters to me while I'm in the ashram for 4 months with my guru doing this course. Everyone's writing to me, like my ex-wife was writing to me. Oh, my mother's dying of cancer. She wants to see you because I had children with my ex-wife. And my mother-in-law wanted to see me before she died. So I felt sort of compelled to go back to Australia after the course finished, which was January 1996. And actually, when I went back to Australia, I went to see my mother-in-law or ex-mother-in-law. And yeah, she did have cancer. And actually, she was the day after I saw her, she actually passed away.
Hmm.
So it was like she waited to see me. And so I sort of continued my role. And although I was a sannyasin, a Swami back in Australia, I decided to open a yoga center and teach yoga, which, like I was highly trained. So I did that for a number of years until I had a yoga studio and all that sort of thing and students and got right into it. And in 2003, at the end of 2003, I moved further up the coast to Wollongong, which is a city in New South Wales, and started studying at college, health science diploma and massage therapy. And then I went to Wollongong Uni and doing psychology and exercise science and for a couple of years. And I had a yoga studio at the same time but then what happened at the end of 2003, with all the commercial, I suppose, responsibilities of running a commercial yoga studio, and I didn't want to dilute my training or learning what I've learned over the years. This is 2003. So, to maintain financial viability.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
uh, closed the yoga studio and entered the property sector to get a real job, you might say. So I went into the property sector as a facilities manager and worked my way through the property sector. And I worked for the next 16 years. But I was still maintaining my connection with yoga, doing my own practices, which are pretty in-depth practices. And I worked in the property sector until 2020, when just after I came back from my last trip to India, 2018, which was my seventh trip to India. Um, I hurt my back, and I ended up having two surgeries on my back, which was like the culmination of previous injuries, uh, and it put an end to my corporate sort of life
Hmm.
in the property sector, because I was working for multinationals, which, they're all management and above. Everyone's a manager and above, and I was a facilities manager and an operations manager, and um, anyway, I was following like the wrong path, you might say, to my spiritual journey. So I've got back into my spiritual journey more as I rehabilitated and recovered from my surgery. And yeah, and I got back on the internet, because I had more time because I wasn't working, and had a look around at what other people are into. And yeah, I was interested in what I found. Dr. Max Rampel, who's into the channeling. And I got interested in channeling because around the same time I was laying in bed with my wife, and I started spontaneously starting to talk. Like I was getting some message coming through to me while I was just laying in bed relaxing. And I was getting a message about my wife who was laying beside me. So I started talking. It was like I got possessed or something, and I started to talk to my wife about one of her past lives, the message that was coming through me to her. So I started getting into channeling, and or watching and listening to all the different channelers, and Max's community, Hucolo community of channelers. And that's where I came across Dr. Richard Allen Miller as well. And yeah,
Hmm.
that's how things evolved on that side of things, on the scientific side of things. So yeah, but all at the same time, I've been still interested in my own research in yoga, on the yogic science side of things. Because, I tried for many years to get this Kundalini research project going, which was pretty deep research project, probably from about 2011. What happened? Actually, I should get onto that subject. In 2011, I went for another retreat to Sweden, to the ashram of Swami Mounamurti Saraswati, who's a yoga master, Kriya Yoga master, from the same lineage as myself. And like, he's about 84 now, but it was the 40th year. I went to his travel. I resigned from my good operations manager job and told everyone, I said, look, I'm going to Sweden to do this 3-month Kriya Yoga retreat with Swami Mounamurti in Sweden. So I did that. Went to Sweden for 3 months and did a 3-month Kriya Yoga retreat, which is a really intensive retreat. And while I was on this retreat, I'll talk about advanced astrophysics. While I was on this retreat, I had this dream where I remember the dream because I took my diary, and I'm journaling everything each day. So I had this dream where I'm talking to my brother, my youngest brother, that I was going to reveal that I'm working on a blueprint actually for advanced astrophysics. And like, I got never even spoken about physics before. I never studied physics or maths or anything, really. And so that was that first experience about that advanced astrophysics. And then that's 2011. And fast forward until um, 2020, I wrote two books on yoga, and I made a video about this last year, but in 2020, I'm driving the car back home after printing out a couple of manuscripts of the two books, and I got a download while I'm driving my car. Like a message came through about a yogic formula, Y equals MT plus S. And I'm going, what's this, you know? So, and then it was all explained to me. I had to pull up the car, and this is the first message that I got from Babaji, who's one of my gurus. And he's an ascended master or yoga master from a couple of thousand years ago. So he's sent this message through me, and I wrote it all down and told my wife and everything like that. So I made a video about this 1 year ago on 3rd of July, 2023, about what this was. And I thought that was the end of it, really, about this is just a new definition of yoga. I thought that was the end of it. And then going back last month, I got another download. And this was about laya, which is like a deeper state of yoga. So it was the first formula was Y equals MT plus S. Yoga equals mastery in brackets T plus S. Time, meaning the physical body, conscious mind, and this dimension, plus S equals the subconscious mind, the unconscious mind, the astral body, plus the causal body, plus every dimension above the physical. So it's a pretty big formula, what's involved there. So, and I was getting told all this and seeing it while I'm sitting in my car, you know, back in 2020.
Wow.
So then a couple of weeks ago in August, I got this message about layer equals MT plus S. So it's like a reversal. Layer is the dissolution. Like yoga was like the expansion of consciousness, and layer is like the dissolution of consciousness. So they're different, they're really advanced states of meditation, or you might say samadhi, that Kriya yogis get into, you know, the layer state or dissolution. So they're the two formulas that came in. And then the third formula is a combination of the whole lot, making it's a formula for the enlightenment, you might say, of the whole being.
What? You figured out the formula for enlightenment, man?
It's like a combination of those two formulas or the two downloads. So whatever I'm getting is coming via my guru, who actually came inside of me in 2018. I didn't mention that. Babaji. Babaji came inside of me, like a possessed inside of me, and visually and fully inside of me, and showed me this meditation technique, a Kriya yoga technique. So he's one of my gurus who personally initiated me into this experience. And I've had a number of astral initiations. So, and
Wow.
they're really deep experiences. And sort of what more can I say about that? But I don't know if you've seen it's like it opened. I started getting these experiences many years ago that high spirits were coming inside of me, uh, benevolent spirits, female and male, Shaktis, female goddesses, teaching me things, and also yogis. And I've also had many experiences, you know, like I've been having psychic experiences for the last 40 years. So at all different depths of experiences. So, yeah, I don't follow these or try to have these experiences, but they've just happened, you know.
This is okay. So you've given me a lot so far, and I let you go because I wanted to see if I could piece a greater story here, and I might have something, but I'm trying. Let me kind of mirror this back to you for a bit before we get more into the advanced astrophysics. Um, it sounds like in your life, you yourself have had many versions of renouncements in a way. I'm thinking about the yoga studio and how it's diluting your thinking. That's your way of going, pushing this to the side. Going to do something else.
Yeah,
Even the mother-in-law getting the letters when you were in India again. Um, there is something inside of you that was going, I'm going back to the family now. There's something that is calling me to the family, that kind of thing. Let me ask you this. In light of, the psychic message you got from Swami when you first met him, in
yeah.
light of, all the kind of materialization, all that early stuff, were any of those words and things that you had in your early stages, and I'm really talking about, I think, your experiences in India in the 80s, were those guiding you at all as you made those different renunciations? Was there something where there was there, or have you just been following your intuition all this time? Or is it a combination of both? Like, how have you gone through and decided to pursue the spiritual path, but consciously go, now I'm just going to get into property management? Because some people, they'd be like, I'm stopping the school, but I'm just going to keep studying meditation now. Like, what was it inside of you that made these shifts?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I made the decision. It's always like being the inner experiences. It's the inner experiences of being deep and ongoing because to really get into these experiences, you've got to go on to longer retreats. Like I did a 4 month course and a 3 month course and things like that. So unless you spend time working on yourself, you can't really get into the right frame of mind and tune up your body and your mind to get right into things. So that's why I see that people need to go onto these longer retreats to really delve into the experiences and the dimensions and just follow those experiences and see where that leads them.
Do you think the corporate sector is even important, or is it
No, it's not. It was just that is totally not important, and I really didn't get into it at all. I felt like I really had to dumb myself down to sort of follow that, but it was just paycheck at the end of the month. That was basically it. Nothing that I really wanted to do. I
yeah?
just was just paying the bills. That's all.
I mean, do the Swamis see a world where we could and even should be dedicating all our time to yoga and meditation? I mean, I don't know. This is the question between the 2D and the 5D and all this stuff and the dimensions. I mean, I love the multidimensional stuff. I love doing it, but I also get the reality of the paycheck. I mean, I don't really. Okay, I'll ask from your perspective. In your life, how have you balanced being a human being on the planet Earth with do you feel like you ultimately achieve that balance? Is there still more of a balance you can get between the material and the spiritual realm? I mean, what is the guidance? Because I really don't always know where's best to focus my time. And there's work life balance, and then there's spiritual life, waking life balance, I feel. So,
Mm.
yeah, just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think I've got the balance. Like I'm well grounded. That's what my teachers have taught me is to be how to be well grounded, and I've learned that by extroverting, getting into the world, and at the same time, introverting and extroverting, and trying to work well and survive survive and work well in both dimensions, extroversion and the introversion, the inner world.
Yeah. I mean, it probably is that I suppose I'm asking you the answer for the journey. And I suppose that is the journey, figuring it out. But I do wonder about you know, these swamis and do they have it's okay. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I feel like there are people that all they are doing is meditating and yoga and teaching these
Well, look,
practices.
sure. Well, if you want to know about like the swamis that have renounced the world, you might say,
Yes.
and gone to live at the ashram and just with the ashram and following their guru and their journey, they're not just sitting meditating, in a cell. They're working for the institution, in different departments. They're working, but they're connected to more with the mission of their guru
Hmm.
and doing, you might say, inner work, more dedicated work to the journey that they've chosen.
Do they, but are the rewards better then? I guess.
Well, I don't know. Like I chose to return to householder life, rather than monastic life. Monastic life, living in an institution with your guru, renouncing the world more or less. And I chose to return to society rather than, in an ashram. And yeah, like I enjoyed that. So, I've had a mix of both. And I can do a lot more in different areas. Like I wouldn't, if I was just following the monastic life inside an ashram, I'd be just doing the work, I've been given in a department or something like that. So I wouldn't be able to pursue my like of channeling or my like of research, things like that. So, I've been let loose to, just run my own show.
But that's why I went. I mean, that's been my interest in you since the beginning. Seeing the things you were posting early on, the fact that you were even on Facebook as a Swami, that made me go, "What? What is? I thought these Swamis were not. They were not into technology, and they're out in the woods and all this
Yeah.
stuff."
Yeah, like I had a website in 1998. I had my first website. So I had satyamyoga.com website and I was running a couple of websites and I got into that, helping promote my guru's mission through those websites and connecting with a lot of people from around the world. That was 1998. But, and through my website, it got quite famous after a few years. And amazing thing is, I found myself when I went to Sweden in 2011, I was sitting down in the dining room talking to a guy from Greece and another guy from India at my table. And I said, "How did you learn about this Kriya Yoga retreat?" And he said, "I was reading this website on this website about this Kriya Yoga thing, and it was satyamyoga.com." And I said, "What?" I said, "That's my website." So I learned about the power of um, the internet, basically, to, like educate people and, I don't know, just communicate with people more.
I mean, it's kind of amazing the way it's changed. I certainly would not have encountered any of so much of the work that I promoted on the show through the people if there wasn't buzz around these topics in a way that there hadn't even been, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But I mean, well, okay, let, us get simple here for a second, just so I understand. what do you have to do to become a Swami? How did you get that title?
Well, it was given to me by Swami Naranjan on that day, 19th of April, 1995. But I asked for initiation, and Swamiji thought I was ready for it. So he gave it to me. But I'd written to Swami Naranjan in 1993. I'd written a handwritten letter to Swami Naranjan because he became the guru in the absence of my guru who'd renounced everything, at BR School of Yoga. So I'd written to Swami Naranjan and told him about my situation. I had children, and but I really wanted to follow the spiritual path, and what should I do, blah blah blah. And I really, when he came out to Australia in '94, I really got into what he was teaching and followed all of his lectures, really deeply, philosophically. And like, he's just absolutely brilliant, can talk on any topic. And I just got right into it. Yeah. So, and Swami Naranjan knew my background, that I'd been to India and, had some big experiences. And yeah, he initiated me into sannyas, and I became a Swami on that day.
What does that mean? You have to, is there a certain level of I don't know, enlightenment you have to achieve? Do you have to do something like strike the some lotus position that's impossible to do?
Uh,
Like what, how do you, like, what makes you qualify?
well, I think that the guru has to see inside through the guru's intuition, if this person is ready for this journey, you might say, of the sannyasa or initiation. Because once you're initiated, it's like it becomes like an endless initiation, as it unfolds within you. You might say it's just a Kundalini unfolding within you as you lead your awareness deeper into yourself. So if that
Oh,
sort of explains it to you.
that's interesting. So there are some people out there that probably are on this journey. It's just they haven't formally been called swamis or had a guru see that they
Oh,
are and tell
oh, for
them,
sure, yeah. And when I became a Swami that day, I entered like a monastic order, which is, I think I met, it was, it's an order that goes back to Adi Shankaracharya, which is, he codified that order of sannyasins in India. His very famous teacher, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya, the first one. And that lineage of, it's called Dasnami, which is the 10 orders of Saraswati being one of Sannyasin Swamis in India. So I entered that order, and that's a connection with the whole order. And there's thousands and even millions in India that have gone that path, now and in the past, over the last 1,000 or 1,200 years since Shankaracharya was alive, Adi Shankaracharya. And even before he did that, codified the order of sannyasins, it was still around, but it was loose, wasn't loosely, it was more loose, it wasn't organized as it is today.
this is super. I mean, it's just it's interesting for me to learn about the orders. And I'm thinking, I mean, I'm thinking about when I think of orders, and I think of like the Freemasons. And and I mean,
Secret societies, as
yeah, this kind of thing. I mean, is there something to being because okay, here's my this is what I'm sorting out in my brain. On one level, I feel there is a divine, I say divine, and I mean it sincerely, a divine simplicity in Eastern spirituality. I connect to the idea that it's about present moment, and it's just, I know this is very reductionist, but that there's it's about being in the present, being with your breath, that all these thought forms and constructions, even there's been criticism. I mean, when I think of the work of David Hawkins, I think of the critiques of some of the way Western magic and occultism has different spells and rituals and kind of this transpersonal realm where, I mean, there's critiques of the astral and all these things, and they say, oh, these are kind of showy and spectacle, but really when you come down to it, it's about one consciousness and truth and being present and aligned. So my thought is this: given that there are a lot of constructs out there, and I think things that people can get lost in the spiritual path. um how can you have so many orders around it? I mean, are there different levels of consciousness you get into when you get to a higher order? I mean, is there like a secret meditation that no one's allowed to know about unless you're a guru level? Like yeah, I'm just trying to understand a little more. If you could paint some more
Well,
colors of
I
that, I'd
would
love to
say
learn.
the experiences that you have, not so much the orders, but the different orders, but there's the experiences that you go through that you have. Uh, as you progress, you might say that you're leading towards more a non-duality, like you say, from duality to non-duality, and that's as you're more or less saying in your astral body. If you're having experiences in your astral body, that's duality still, but there's a point where non-duality occurs. From duality, it fuses into non-duality, and that's a big experience. When you come back from that experience, you really know that there's no words that can explain it. It's just the experience of total bliss, totally at one, and all you can think of is just God. That's it, and love, and that's it. When you come back from that, and that's like your real inner self. Up to the third eye, Agnya, the experiences of awakening through the chakras, they're all different, but you're all part of the psychic dimension. But above Agnya, through the Sahasrara and above, you're connecting to the non-dual experience of, um, well, in yoga they call it Satchitananda, existence, knowledge, bliss. The Ananda part is, yeah, it's like you're being electrified in bliss and love, you know, and you just don't want to come back down. And you're coming back down into the third eye, from into the astral, and then back down to the physical. It's like the ascent and the descent, the ascent of your awareness up into the absolute, and then back down into duality, into the physical body.
Have
It's
you
it's
ever
hard.
met? I was going to ask, have you ever met anyone that's gone up and has never come back down?
No, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, there's always the descent back to. If you go up, yeah, I've never met anyone that hasn't come back.
There are rumors about that, right? Aren't there? I mean, I've had someone on my show talk about like a a monk that self combusted. I mean, or yeah, they're
Yeah,
just
I've heard rumors about stuff like that, self combustion.
Yeah, or just sitting there. They're almost like petrified wood. They found people that were just sitting in the yogic stance, and yeah, I mean, I don't know how true that is.
Look, I don't really know what's going on there, self-combustion. But yeah, I've had one friend that I've been in contact with since about 2005. He mentioned it about self-combustion. But yeah, obviously, as as possibility of stuff happens.
Yeah.
The stories of yogis becoming just a ball of light, you
Yes.
know, and then just fusing into the light. And through history, you can search that on the internet, or rainbow body, or a ball of light, and just becoming a light. And there's many stories. There's many amazing stories. Like I just heard yesterday, uh, a story of one of the great yogis of India, Paula Baba. He just died a couple of weeks ago. I only found out yesterday, and he's an amazing guru, and or he was, and who I've met astrally, actually a number of times, 4 or 5 times, and he used to go into underground samadhi. They call it boo samadhi,
Yeah,
buried
what's
underground,
that? Underground. I
buried
like it.
underground. And he's also there's a lot of these yogis, a lot of some of them are really big experimenters. They experiment a lot on a deeper level of materialization, dematerialization.
What?
Yeah, some of these high ones like Pala Baba and Swami Satchinanda, uh, sending out not only telepathy, experiments in telepathy, and also, well, they don't call it in yoga, they don't call it telepathy, it's spiritual transmission between guru and disciple. That sort of stuff all happens. That's all real, but they just don't call it all these modern names because when the higher chakras start awakening, you're getting all this clairaudience, telepathy, clairvoyance. That's just all part of the game. And when the at the higher level they give up all that, or they give up their attachment to psychic phenomena.
Yes. Yes.
That's like the knot of the third eye. That's as the Kundalini ascends through the chakras. When it gets to the sixth one, Agnya, to go higher, they have to give up their attachment to psychic phenomena. That helps them. The Kundalini burst through Agnya, through the third eye, up to Sahasrara.
See, now that's interesting. That to me is like, and this is a very ego Western perspective, but to me, that's sad in a way. And I'll tell you why. And I know the state after that, I'm sure it's even better, but it's one of those, it's kind of like being a rock star. And then you got the drugs, you got the fans, you got the partying, that period where you first become famous, and then you have to give it up in order for you to have a better life, or at least to be an artist that is doing something meaningful. I mean, how does somebody know? I think it would be pretty cool if you were psychic for a while. And I'm sure there's some people that just stay there because they are attached to it.
That's
um
right.
I mean, did you ever experience it? Did you ever
Oh,
get
for
to that place?
sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, you do go through stages when you're interested in all this psychic phenomena, and you start seeing all your auras and things like that, and you do get attached to it for a while, and then your energy might move on into different things.
What was the coolest thing? I want to know. What was something that happened when you were when that when you were in the psychic phase?
Oh,
That
look,
yeah.
it still happens. It's not totally over, but I don't know how. I mean, you just have so many experiences, like over 40 years. Yeah, there's just so many experiences. But I
Was
think
there a moment you went, oh my gosh, how did I know that? I think I'm here. I'm at this place. I mean, how do you even awaken into that?
just by practicing all the yoga practices, like over many years, many many hours per day for many years,
Yeah.
you just open up to all the energies in the chakras. Like the energy in the chakras are unlimited. They're not just little bit of energy. So it's actually the potential in each chakra is unlimited. But we don't want to get stuck in our lower chakras, but rather be in the higher chakras.
What is there some sort of cosmic temptation going on? How do they explain people that want to stay attached to the psychic realm and don't want to move up? I mean, what is that? Is that the some kind of test or something from some
Well,
higher intelligence?
well, yeah, I reckon it's sure. I reckon it's definitely a test. But yeah, those people that are really, once their astral bodies really awaken, they really need to find a guru.
Hmm.
This is what happens in yoga. They say when you're Vijnana Maya Kosha, that's like the astral body. When the astral body starts awakening, you need to start searching. Have to become a high caliber seeker, not an ordinary seeker, a high caliber seeker. So to get help and that's what happens. Up until that, they don't need a guru. But when their astral body really starts to wake up, yeah, well, they do probably then.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they might struggle a bit.
Now, look, you mentioned this psychic reading that you first encountered that when you first went over there, that was impactful for to you with this Swami that materialized in front of your bed, and then this guy says, "Come,
Yeah.
let's talk." Um, have you seen any other interesting? I mean, have you witnessed a materialization? Have you witnessed someone levitating? I mean, what? How magical have your experiences been in waking reality?
Well, I haven't witnessed anybody levitating, but
I always ask about the levitation. I'm always curious about the
astral
levitation.
levitation is another experience. That's quite interesting. That same day, when Swami Satchidananda appeared at my bedhead, and I was communicating with him telepathically, and then half an hour later, or three-quarters an hour later, my Kundalini woke up.
Yeah, that's pretty
I
magical.
started I started to astrally levitate inside of me into another dimension. And I could feel myself flying and floating in this other dimension while I'm sitting there in my lounge room meditating. I lost awareness of my breath and my breathing and my whole physical body. And I entered through the chakras up into the path of where Kundalini goes. That's a levitation, astral levitation. So that's one of the signs of Kundalini, one of the first experiences. So
Holy moly.
when that starts happening, you start searching for more answers.
Yeah. Okay, so this is all very interesting. So look, then let's go into the physics of it. Or at least what this formula you've come up with. I mean, what do you think? What is the significance of this formula? What does this help us understand? What do you hope we can take away from this channeling of yours, where you're getting these downloads?
Well, the first formula is a new definition of yoga. So so that people can understand it a bit easier. When we're talking about the conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind, but modern people can more understand that than talking about the Yoga Sutras, where they're talking about what's the definition of yoga. to still the vrittis of the mind, and it's too the Yoga Sutras are a bit difficult for people to grasp. But when you start talking about mastering the physical body and the astral, and then we start connecting with the subconscious. Subconscious is just full of powers and things like that, and like you said, temptations, and yeah, the difference between the astral and the causal body. That's really interesting, and I had many experiences about that, and also that those formulas, and then layer, and that was like the second formula, the collapsing, right? So layer is the second formula, L equals C, collapsing. So I didn't know what that meant because I've never studied physics. I'm just getting a download from my guru, Mahavatar Babaji, and collapsing time and space. So the collapsing is actually layer yoga. Layer means dissolution of the elements.
Hmm.
So as the energy goes through the chakras, they're the elements as well of the chakras: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, the five elements. And then that's up to Vishuddhi. From Muladhara to Vishuddhi is five chakras and the five elements. And then you got mind at Agnya. And then it's then up to Sahasrara, which is a crown chakra. So it's a different path. Up to Agnya is like self-realization, you might say. You realize the self in the third eye as a light and get right into that experience. And then above that is another experience. You might say God. Self-realization is up to Agnya, and God realization is beyond Agnya, out of the body through Sahasrara. You might have seen some of the yogis when they uh, leave their body for good, Mahasamadhi, it's called. The called the Brahmarendra, which is the fontanelle on little babies, the soft part at the back of their skull when they're born, a newborn
Yeah.
baby. That part in some of the yogis is burst, and the Kundalini comes out. Kundalini shoots out and just becomes one with the cosmos up there in the spirit world.
Oh, so what? No, wait, do we mean literally here? Is the
Yeah,
or
there have been reported cases of that happening as well.
oh my God. What do you think the science of this? So is this, I mean, and I know you like put this on academia.edu. Um, do you feel that if people read this, it's going to inspire them to want to practice this stuff more? Is it just going to make sense of it? I mean, what is, what, yeah,
Yeah, well, those formulas are out there for to probably to well, I want I would like the scientific people to try and understand yoga a bit, the in-depth yoga a bit deeper, in a way that they can sort of wrap their head around easier than digging through all the sacred texts and understanding it that way. And
yeah.
the final formula is the final formula where they combine the two formulas. Well, to put that to the test, this is the thing. To put it to the test, you have to do the Kundalini research project, which I've been trying to get since 1994. I first heard about it, and
Yes.
that was 1994. But since 2012, I've been talking about it, and it's really died. But if people want to put that formula to the test, I'm recommending do that project on and measure the DNA, measure the brain waves, measure everything. Yeah, the hormones, the receptors, what's going on in the bodies of the participants of that project, and especially since Dr. Max Rampell's talking about the starseed genetics. So I love to get more information. I really want Max to succeed with his research, where he's looking into the 95% of the non-coding section of the DNA.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's an alien influence there.
Do the Swamis talk about aliens?
Not really, but like I do. But
No, that I was just curious. I mean, I've heard, that there is always the general thing is, oh, they talk about star people and Native American or American Indian culture. But forget how we're calling it now. I think it's Native American. I think we went back. But yeah, no, like the indigenous people of America have referred to star people. Star people are talked about certainly the Hopi in your hometown, your area. They talk about some connection to people that were from the stars way before us. So I'm always curious if in India, where these practices are, there's any kind of culture, their version of
oh, yeah,
extraterrestrials.
yeah. Look, they really. I mean, in India, they got the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, like that ancient texts, and there's a lot of evidence in Indian thought about the ancient aliens and
Yes.
the Vimanas are their spaceships. That's what they call Vimanas. And yeah, there's a lot of evidence there, but people don't talk a great deal about it. I mean, they try and keep a lid on it, I think. But there's younger generation people are talking about it a lot more.
Yeah. This is interesting. This is interesting.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I've had a lot of experiences myself, and I did a video about it. I
Oh,
did a video with Max Rampell, back on Christmas Day, actually last year, and I did a video about some of my experiences with ETs and UFOs and things like that. On Christmas Day last year, 2023, I did one video with Max and I did one video myself. So
well,
I figured I wanted to unload a lot about that, so I did.
have you? I mean, give us a preview. Have you been in a ship before? Have you seen
Yes, I
UFO?
have.
Really?
I've
What
been
year was
in
that?
I've been in a couple of ships, but they're I might say astrally, not physically. I mean, I wasn't abducted,
Right, right.
right? I wasn't anything like that. But I've actually physically seen a ship as well when I was driving with my wife, actually and I mentioned that in that video I made on Christmas Day last year, 2023. I was driving my car and I saw a UFO, and it followed me for about half an hour. I
Hmm.
actually went to my first UFO expo. I found myself at an expo in Sydney in 1985,
Wow.
1 year before my awakening. I went to a place called Centrepoint Tower in CBD in Sydney, and I went up the lift to a restaurant. I thought it was just a restaurant at the top. When the lift opened, there was a UFO expo on. So that
Uh,
was my first experience of a UFO expo, 1985.
yes. So
But I
yeah,
started,
so it's been circling you. It's been around your world.
yeah, I sort of started having experiences and all sorts of experiences. Like there was that experience where I saw a UFO, and then there was many astral experiences, which I mentioned in that video that I made. And yeah, I've actually been on ships, seen aliens, and they've actually talked to me. So that's interesting when they talk. And yeah, so it's no holes barred. I've had so many different types of experiences.
Yeah. Super interesting stuff. But I want to know, I mean, what is the goal for someone like me that probably does need to dedicate more. I mean, I always talk about this. I'm like ashamed of it sometimes. I don't have a regular yoga practice. I don't have a regular meditation practice. Yes, I do. I try to go into self hypnosis, listen to a lot of recordings, a lot of stuff around that because I very much believe in hypnosis as a practice in general. But in terms of Kundalini, I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, it feels like this is so far off. Is the Kundalini research project, is it a means of helping people get there more practically? I mean, what were you trying to achieve with that project specifically?
Yeah, well, that with that project specifically, we're trying to open the eyes to the general public of what Kundalini is first, and then the benefits of it. What are the benefits of it, and can we just give them to society and to make a more enlightened society, get away from the paradigm that we're in to a more spiritual paradigm?
How do you do that?
Well, well, by the research project was a 5-year project with 150 people, male and female, from different walks of life, from different countries. So you've got uh, a good cross section of society from different societies around the whole world of
Yeah.
Kundalini aspirants. And it was a 5-year project and measuring with all the top scientists and gurus and yogis, helping, training, and measuring all the changes in the body and the mind and psychology and psychiatrists and, you know, all that as well. And the DNA. So the DNA's taken on a bigger prominence now since Max's research. So I've actually amended the protocol to recommend that all the participants get their DNA analyzed by Max.
Do you have any, are there certain people that are more likely to be able to tap into Kundalini than others? I mean, what are some of the things that you've discovered so far?
Well, you basically can't say who's it going to happen to and who's it not going to happen to because you might not be doing anything and then all of a sudden things start to wake up. Usually it's a chakra awakening, a mild awakening, but sometimes it's a bigger awakening. And and then there's people that start to do more spiritual practices, and then that sort of helps facilitate a more of an awakening. So the more deep the practices, the more you're coming to a point of awakening. You're coming close to a point of awakening.
I want to figure this out. I mean, I suppose you do have the astrophysics is built off of that, right? I mean, you're talking about using mathematical formulas to symbolically represent these spiritual concepts. Um, do you feel there's a world where if you go, okay, well, look, I'm doing the yoga and now I'm dedicating this amount of time. I know there's like tea in there, but or do you feel like you can adjust your practice based on this formula? I suppose is the question I'm asking. Is there a way to use this research you've done in this download practically?
Yeah, I think if people look at the first formula, uh, yoga equals mastery of time, right? And working on the physical body. Start on the physical body. Obviously, we have to start on the physical body because that's where we're grounded in the physical body. So you work on the physical body, then you work on the breath and the mind. So they're like three good components. So working with some asanas and or postures, the relaxation, some breathing practices, and some just simple meditation practices. That's probably the best way to go before you start tackling anything a bit deeper. Like I was a bit of an extremist, so I went for the heavy duty practices straight up, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the personality. But it's a way of evolving your personality, you might say, because personality is a reflection of what you are inside. So it can definitely change you.
What is the have you, I mean, you've had Max Rampell. Is there anybody else in the scientific community that is been invested in the Kundalini project?
Yeah, well, I've had a few friends, but they've sort of lost interest. A couple of my friends are physicists from probably 10, 12 years ago, but they've lost interest as well because they know how difficult it is to get any project moving. You need funding. And I sort of appeal to the Indian people and to get like government funding, and even made a video recently. And I had an open letter to Narendra Modi, who's the Prime Minister of India, to help fund the project. And I'm waiting for something to happen, but it's a bit of a wish fulfilling thing.
Yeah. I mean, I see photos of you sitting on panels, and I was like, oh, is he having sessions talking about this project with people? I mean, what is where how far do you feel like you've come with your research so far?
Well, I really just all I think all I've been doing is really raising awareness about it, and I'm not really trying hard now. I think I've done enough, and I just want to sort of sit back and just let people find out more about it in their own way, because there's other people around the world that are talking about Kundalini as well. So, and that project, but they sort of get sidetracked off on their own tangent, you might say. It's very easy to get sidetracked once things start getting, I suppose, more recognition and talking to people. You get sidetracked easily about different things.
Yeah.
Like, uh, like Kundalini Research Project was the deepest thing I've been really, really interested in. But recently there was someone talking to me about making a movie, things like that, and becoming a guru in India and stuff like that. And I'm not interested in any of that stuff. So what I'm
Yeah.
saying is there's distractions. There's distractions that take you away from the path.
What do you think? Is there? I'm curious about some of the ways you've actually been measuring this energy, if you have. Do you have technical tools? Are you connecting people to, the EEG machines?
Yeah,
how do you actually
uh,
research Kundalini?
yeah. Well, I'm not personally. I'm not doing any of that. But I've actually sent some of my friends to do a pilot study with some other people who had a research facility in India back in 2015, Center of Biofield Sciences. I sent a yogi friend of mine from India, who's a real yogi, and a scientist, physicist friend of mine over to Pune in Maharashtra to do some research. Well, it was a small research project for 4 days with Dr. Thornton Streeter and some other doctors there. And he's into biofield sciences, like, working with the aura and energy medicine and things like that. But I don't see if people have gone anywhere with it, really. Not really deep.
So you have this deep project that you're just sort of like, yeah, I'm done. I'm giving you the keys. All of you have to drive this thing because I'm sitting back. I got something else going on.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Like I'm more focused on, basically, for me personally, I'm just more focused on ascension. I'm not, but at the same time, I'm trying to open people up to what is this Kundalini, and Kundalini research project. But at the same time, I'm more interested in following my own path inside of me, what's guiding me.
Do you believe that if you ascend, you can make an even deeper impact on the world's understanding of these things than this project?
I think it's possible if anyone ascends higher, to a higher plane, you can gain more knowledge and awakening and enlightenment, and you can spread that out more.
Yeah, are you into that whole the David Hawkins school of thought at all? Have you read his stuff?
I don't know. I've never heard of him.
Okay, okay. Dr. David Hawkins. Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd be curious. I mean, I don't know if I fully believe. It's hard to believe a lot of this stuff, and sometimes, but kinesthesiology and the idea of certain things are muscle testing. Some things are truth, some things are not. If it's truthful, your arm is going to stay up straight. If it's not, divine
Yeah,
truth, that kind of thing.
yeah. I heard about kinesiology back when I was studying massage
Mm,
therapy back in 1998,
kinesio, yeah.
99. But and I even did a little bit of osteopathy. But the yeah, I really don't know that much about it. But I've read other people that have, think, well, yeah, this is a real test on things.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that he has this number system that where he's ranking different states. First of all, he's got the map of consciousness, which is interesting in itself. Just having, if you're you're in the 900 realm, that means you're in the realm of love. Versus if you're in the 400 realm, you're in neutral, whatever it is. I don't know it off the top of my head, but basically, what he argues in his work is that if you have one person that achieves the state of enlightenment or rises up, then that collectively boosts all of the world's consciousness.
Yeah, I believe if there's enough people that do reach enlightenment, that helps others. But it was like they talk about Buddha. When Buddha was enlightened, his aura emanated out of him like a couple of miles. So wherever he walked, it was like the walking light. Within a couple of miles, those people are affected by his energy. So if more people on the planet reached enlightenment, that's what I'm talking about, this Kundalini research project, you can do the practices. Out of 108 or 150, you might get two or three Buddhas or someone like that, really fully enlightened.
Yeah.
You know, you can manufacture, it's possible to manufacture or evolve people if they're ready to this enlightened state.
It's so I'm sitting here going like this guy cares about the ascension, but you also want the ascension of others. Um, I mean, but it doesn't sound like it's an egoic thing. Like some people might say, uh, well, Swami, what this research project, it was such a nice charitable thing you're doing for everybody, but now you're spending time focusing on your ascension. Why is your ascension more important than all of our ascensions? I know that's not what's going on. Why is it not what's going on? Like why is the path of personal self-development in this way and personal expansion is why is that just as legitimate as any other path in your
I
opinion?
think I think because personally, if you reach a point of enlightenment or awakening, you radiate out from
Yes.
within you. You radiate out more love, light, compassion, understanding, the whole thing. And that affects other people. It might only be a few people around you, but the more that awakens, the more people
And I suppose
get
that's the
affected.
paradox of it too, is that when you hear what enlightenment and love, it's not about you, it's about the other often, or you being one. It's like you in communion with the other. It's the ultimate about other people and other life force. The idea if you were just sitting there the whole time being like, I'm going to be ascended, I'm going to be ascended, I'm going to be ascended. It's like that's not
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, no, no, it's really like a love thing. You know, my first awakening was in the heart chakra, in the heart. That was my first awakening. Before I had the Kundalini awakening, in Muladhara, which is at the bottom of the perineum in the base chakra, my first awakening was in the heart chakra, and all I felt was like love. And then I started going to all these churches that I told you about and wondering what this is in my heart. You know, I'm feeling all this stuff. And then you can just spread the love around, basically. Keep the mind out of it and just spread the love. But it's like the energy in the chakras, but you don't have to, you don't want one chakra more activated than the others. You want them all balanced. This is another thing. You don't want one totally focused on one chakra. To be healthy, you really need to balance all of them.
Is that
Like
something? Is that a
some people that
misstep you see? Is there are there some people that get really screwed up by focusing just on their crown chakra, but they forget their root? I mean, what happens if you don't
yeah, yeah,
focus on them all?
exactly. I think, you know, if some just focus on one chakra, it can be just predominate. It can lead to an imbalance. Like the Muladhara chakra, the base chakra, you know, you become like a totally focused on sex, you know, and this sort of thing, you know, it can just predominate, and then you've got to move on into the other chakras, and heart, love, you know, and up here you're into the psychic phenomena, you know, you don't want it to get too imbalanced. So that's why they go for the balance of all the chakras. That's why the practices like Kriya Yoga, you work on all the chakras, not one. You're not trying to awaken one chakra. You're trying to balance and harmonize all of them. So that's why with deeper practices, you know, you're working on all the chakras, trying to bring them into an activation, but also trying to harmonize them at the same time.
This is super cool stuff. Advanced astrophysics. What are we gonna? I mean, what is going to be the next download? What do you think? Okay, let me ask you this: compared to August, when this happened in August for you. What do you think you understand now from this formula that you didn't before?
Well, it's funny. After I got the second download about layer L equals C, the collapsing part, the after I got that, I remembered the dream in 2011 where I was talking to my brother when I was in Sweden on the Kriya Yoga retreat, advanced astrophysics, and then I put it all together because I didn't even think about it till then. And but then so yeah, where's the next download? I really don't know, but you know, there's things happening all the time, and I just want to next year I want to get back into a bit of teaching. Like I retired from teaching, like I said, when I closed that yoga studio in 21 years ago. I retired from professional yoga teaching, you know, teaching 18 classes a week, and I've only taught a little bit of Kriya Yoga in India over a couple of years, back in 2012, 2013. And I've just been doing my own practices. But I want to get back next year. I want to get back into a little bit of online Kriya Yoga teaching. So I've seen that evolving, the online stuff evolving, because I had a website, you know, from 98. So I've seen that world basically evolving, uh, like what you're doing, talking to people, you know. So I think this is a really good thing. And I mean, people are getting into this and communicating with other people. And, you know, like I see a lot of, I'm in this, I'm actually a life member of the Indian Yoga Association, and I see a lot of those yoga teachers and masters, the gurus that are up there having talks and satsangs, they call them, spiritual discussions with groups, online groups, webinars. And I see that as another area of communication, the webinars, the face to face, all that sort of thing. And not only virtually, but also, in real life, maybe going into other things. But
If we all practice this, if we all practice yoga and meditated around the world, is there a vision of what this planet would be like that you hold?
well, I really think that um, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I really would love to think that people, instead of looking out, extroverting, they find themselves within themselves. And then that changes the paradigm. If enough of the grassroots starts to evolve within themselves, if enough of those people start to evolve, that'll that'll change humanity. But it's a utopian view, you might say. But I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I mean, is there, well, you know what is interesting? You haven't mentioned drugs at all.
Oh yeah, I had plenty of drugs. If you want to talk about that, back in my younger days,
Well, I was gonna
in,
say, does that? I mean, and what I mean is more the sacred stuff. I'm talking. I mean, I guess LSD could be sacred, maybe, yeah. Have you had any? Have the psychedelic experiences that you maybe had? Have those been transformational at all?
well,
They
I
aren't
did
for
have some.
everybody.
Yeah, look, I did have. I took drugs for 10 years, and then I gave them up in uh, what was it, 1983. So gave up 40 years ago.
So it was before you really the quickening, as you described it.
Yeah, well, I had gone pure, you might say, off drugs, off everything, and then just yoga, and then the awakenings happened. But I did have, absolutely, I had psychic experiences, visions or hallucinations or whatever you want to say, through psychedelics, and also my last trip, you might say, was not from LSD. I mean, I did have LSD probably half a dozen times, but my last trip was actually with a tablet purchased over the counter at a chemist shop without a prescription, but I had a lot of them, and it was a scary experience. I actually saw like a demon or the devil, and I was with another friend of mine who actually saw the same thing, and it was scary, really scary. I was only 20.
Are you telling me that the drugs that people are manufacturing at Big Pharma are the work of Satan?
Well, probably, but but like these things can awaken things. Like
Yeah.
awaken things. Like I remember when I first ingested all these tablets, and I waiting for them to come on. A ball of fire emerged on the wall and started a big flame coming out like this, and I'm watching a flame on the outside, and on the inside I'm watching a movie on the wall. And then I turned around to look at the window, kitchen window, and the devil was climbing through the window in this dimension. And that scared the living shit out of me. I really lost my voice. I couldn't speak for a couple of days. And then I started stuttering, and the stuttering went on for 2, 3 weeks before I came back to normal. And I never touched anything, any tablet after that. I was praying to be back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that. For
It
sure.
was scary.
Hey, why not? Have you ever is there, I mean, speaking of psychedelics, is there interest or has there ever been, because our friend Dr. Richard Allen Miller, he talks about some of the stuff he was doing in the 70s with going to Mexico and South America and seeking the shamans, that world of things. No, shamans are different than swamis, though there is definitely some overlap. Have you ever gone that route or been interested in that side?
I've never really been interested in the shamans or anything like that. Like I've just experimented myself when I was younger, like from 16 to 26, those years when I was really a young surfer. And, I was right into drugs, taking
Do you think
bits,
there's something
whatever.
to get from those or there's something that could shape the understanding of, I mean, because they're talking about yoga too, or they're talking about different kind of meditation practices and holding position. I mean, I know Carlos Castaneda and some of those books, they're talking about like the different poses and stances and ways of accessing the other dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're valid. I mean, a lot of people say that. Oh, when I was on this Kriya yoga retreat in Sweden, there was a young girl from New York. She was from New York on that retreat. And I was talking to her, and she said when this retreat finishes, she's going back to uh, see her mother. And then they're both going to South America to do an ayahuasca retreat. And I thought, wow, far out, like I was 54. There's no way I'm doing that. That age. But I'd been through enough drugs when I was young.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That explains that piece of things for sure. All right. So look, this is all very, very fascinating. Do you think after all this time you have an explanation for that 11-year-old boy that you were as to why you had this out of body experience? Does it all make sense? Is there a reason? Is there something in you that you were chosen for a particular reason? I mean, what would you, how would you make sense of that first experience in light of
Okay.
everything you've
I'll
come from?
I'll tell you what happened. At that time, I was actually practicing yoga as an
At
11-year-old with my mother, who was going to yoga class. And I was the eldest sibling of four kids, and we were all practicing yoga. I was an 11-year-old. And we, we were just having fun. And I was like the yoga teacher of my two younger brothers and younger sister, and doing all sorts of yoga practices for a while. And that was at the time when I had this experience, out of body experience. But the strangest thing, Greg, Mum was watching this yoga show on TV called Relaxing with Roma. Her name was Roma Blair. And she was actually, I found out later, much later, she had a yoga show on TV. But this one day I was watching it, and there appeared on TV this Swami in robes on this TV show that I watched every day with my mother. Every afternoon, it was on TV for about, I don't know, many years. And there was a Swami in these robes on this TV, and I'm an 11-year-old going, Mum, what's this? And I didn't think any more of it. But later on, I found out that that was actually Swami Satyananda that I met 20 years later in 1988 in India, and I'm sitting in front of him when I met
what
him. And I was
what
11-year-old. And then I was 31 when I met him.
this is all okay. A lot of
That
synchronicity.
was mind blowing.
Yeah. Yeah. This seems to be a continual mind-blowing experience. I want you to toy around with dematerializing and materializing. Wonder what would if anybody
Well,
could.
that formula that I'm talking about, that advanced astrophysics, when that layer equals C collapsing, that collapsing part could be the part where we go. I mean, and I don't know nothing about science or physics, right? Just basic, absolute basic stuff. But that could be the dematerializing part, could be changing from the particle to the wave, collapsing,
Mm.
collapsing into the wave, and becoming the light. So I'm saying a real yogi that's not me, but someone like Pilot Baba, who I just found out died, could dematerialize, then rematerialize, go back to the light, and then back.
Holy moly. This is
So
all
that might be involved with that formula, the collapsing part layer. So I've just put that little breadcrumb out there.
Leia. I love it. I love it. Okay. Wow. This does seem like it's if there is anything close to the Jedi, this is close. I feel this makes a lot of sense. But it's spelled Laya.
It's
Um,
Laya, layer.
yes, yes, yes. Don't get misconstrued there, people. But yes, okay. Very interesting stuff. I'm curious to see more of where this research goes, where the Kundalini project goes, and also where you dematerialize into. Where's this ball of light of Swami Mounamurti going? I'm gonna follow it for a while. Such an interesting conversation. I appreciate you sharing your story and your time with me. And yeah, I will. We will link to all this information, including where you can read the paper, as well as learn more about Kundalini Research Project. Anything else out there that people should know about you right now, where they can find you?
No, that's really it, Greg. I'm just on Facebook at the moment, and I was rebuilding my website, but my website design is stuffed up, so I'm trying to sort that out at the moment. But I'll probably have satchamyoga.com
Nice.
back within the next 6 months.
Back
So
from the
next year, I'm
90s.
teaching. Hey,
It was from the 90s, right?
yeah,
Satnam Yoga.
1998, I first registered it. I've had that domain
Yes.
since then.
It is time. It is time for the 90s. Yeah, we love 90s nostalgia. And you know what? Bring it back. Bring it back. We want the 90s back. Um, super cool to talk to you. Swami Mounamurti Saraswati. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you giving your time here.
Thanks very much for asking me, Greg. That was great. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Namaste.
Namaste. Bye bye.